Hey Tim, how are you?
Donna, g'day from down under.
I love it when you say that. It's the best. We jumped on quick, and before I hit record, we were talking a little bit. And so all that was going on, and then you had asked like, "How's your sleep?" And I was kind of chuckling because I actually have a little struggle to get to sleep, but once I'm there, I'm out.
Yes, it can be quite a serpentine path getting to that place of unconsciousness. When you're dealing with people who are fatigued, they have a BS radar 1,000 miles long. So you are going to be able to embody the very thing that we're talking about today.
Hey everyone, I'm Donna Hoffmeyer, host of Beyond the Front Line, and welcome to Collective Collaborations. This is where we stop skimming the surface and start digging deep. Each series, we take one specific topic that matters to our community and we break it down piece by piece with the experts who actually get it. Our current collection is Fuck, I Thought I Was the Only One. Veteran and Breathworks in Bed founder Tim Thomas and I look at the invisible weight we carry out of high stress careers, from chronic pain and isolation to survival mode anger, and how we use tactical breathwork to physically change our biology, turn off the alarm, and actually heal. Let's get into it. We're going to focus in on what you would call, well, sleep deprivation, but was the other topic? You called it sleep deprivation and wired fatigue, which I thought was a great terminology, right? So I'm going to throw out some fun facts first
Yeah, yeah.
about that because I was doing a little research, and as we all know, sleep and military sleep and veteran sleep and first responders, uh, kind of like oil and water. People chuckle. You actually sent me a video before our recording, and you're like, "Watch this, you'll laugh." And so went and did an event, and he's standing there. And let me tell you, the video was awesome. He's standing there owning it and an Australian flag tied around his neck, like a cape. It's awesome. But what was funny is he asked everybody, how's your sleep? And he's like, how many people got a great night's sleep? There was not one hand that went up. How many people got like an okay sleep? Literally maybe less than 10% went up. And then he's like, how many people? And I think he was gonna say had a crappy night, but he kind of softened it, was like, didn't sleep as well as they would have liked. Almost all the hands went up in the air. And it's just, and they were all veterans, right? These were all
Uh,
Australian veterans.
that one was a civilian event. So that
Oh,
was that was called Spoke to a Bloke, a men's mental health group that have realized that, men talk in the right conditions, and one of which is doing stuff together. So they do these big walks, and there
oh,
was,
smart.
so I was talking, there was probably 300 people in that group. And we walked 25 kilometers, which would be about
About
15
10.
miles for
Yeah,
you
it's I was
guys.
gonna say about 15 miles. What,
Yeah.
how many, but out of that, if you had asked, how many do you think would have been veterans in there? Good pot,
Uh, probably 10 to 15%.
at
Yeah.
least that, yeah.
Um,
Well, it just shows the chronicity of right sleep, right?
oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
the whys behind it are all different. But if you bring it over to our veteran and first responder community, that why specifically everybody will have all these different stories, but collectively it's all related to the trauma we've endured, right?
Yeah. And veterans and first responders, we go through this selection process of people that are tenacious enough to do without, the amount of rest that most people get. And I honestly think it's sometimes our strengths that bring us down. We can get by on so little, and we just think it's normal, and we sort of pat ourselves on the back and we give ourselves medals saying, look at how
Well,
well this person's going without.
but why is that? Like, you know this because you were trained in this. So anybody that's special forces, SAS, Rangers, Green Beret, I could list off all the special forces, right? What is part of your training?
Yeah. Sleep
sleep
deprivation.
deprivation, right? Like that is literally part of your training. So you're damn right it's a badge of honor because if you don't do that part and you don't pass it, you're not gonna become special force, whatever that is. That is part of it, right? Because of the nature of your business. So here's some fun facts. I want to throw a couple of these out. There's 80, they call it the 85% epidemic. There was a 2025 systematic review found that 85% of emergency first responders suffered from significant sleep deprivation during their shifts, which obviously far exceeds like general populations. I would
Man,
also
that breaks
contend,
my heart to hear that statistic.
I'm sure that's equal
Really
to
does.
the military population, veteran population. This one, now this is very interesting. Um, al alcohol equivalent, being awake for 24 hours. So for anybody that's had to be awake for that time, so think of your special forces, think your firefighters are getting called out every 2 minutes. Think of catastrophic, hospital workers in a catastrophic like snowstorm or whatever's going on, they have to be there. Creates a cognitive impairment equivalent to a 0.10 blood alcohol level, which is over in the
Yeah,
US,
yeah,
the
yeah.
legal limit is 0.08.
Well, to back that up, there's over 100,000 accidents in the US attributed to fatigue. So, you might blow into a bag or blow into a thing to test your alcohol level in your
Right.
blood, but no one's giving you something to blow into to test your fatigue level.
Right. There's nothing there but it's equivalent to that. So all your shift workers, or even if you are, I mean, I was always a good sleeper, even when I worked shifts. I was not the person that could come home and be up till noon. I would like come home, and by the time I got home, I was probably the latest I ever went to sleep was like 9. But I know many people that would come home and it would take them hours to come down, or they'd be doing it with Benadryl or God knows what else. But they would need that to come down. They couldn't do it on their own, right? So now you're putting them, if they're not getting good sleep at the time they need to sleep and then they're going back to work, we got a bigger problem,
Absolutely.
right?
You can't break the natural circadian rhythm, our natural biological rhythms that we've had for millions of billions of years, and not
Mm-hmm.
expect to have some sort of consequence. And another fact, I don't know the source of it, but there's a 300% increase in preventable diseases of shift workers because they're not just not sleeping properly, but they've broken the day-night cycle. So that's just something to,
Yeah, the
if you're
circadian
going to
rhythm
get paid for
actually.
doing night shift, make sure it's enough.
Yeah, yeah. They said there was another one. There's so many. I just pulled off like a couple. Military sleep debt. The prevalence estimates for sleep deprivation among service members are twice as high as in the civilian population, with a 64% reporting less than 7 hours of sleep per night. Now, you know what's funny? You can extend that out. So we're going to talk about military and first responders. And then when you were talking about your like circadian rhythm, they're talking about it was a 2026 research indicated that the Kelly shift, so 24 hour on, 24 hours off, causes the highest level of circadian dysrhythmia, leading to a chronic overproduction of cortisol and wired fatigue.
Yeah. You
And
called
we
that the Kelly
know,
shift. I hadn't heard that term before, the Kelly shift.
yeah, that's what they were calling this one, the Kelly schedule impact. So 24 hours on, 24 hours off. And but you know what's interesting with that? What I would add to that, we all what's adrenaline fatigue, right? Eventually we run out of
Yeah.
adrenaline or cortisol. Did you know? Here's another fact. This just popped in my head. They did research. I cannot remember the study, but I remember reading this and I was mind blown. So, what you would suspect with veterans and first responders, you would suspect that if you took, and those that are dealing with like PTSD and whatnot, if you checked their cortisol levels, what would you expect them to be?
Well, incredibly high.
Right. You know what they found? Opposite. They were like tanked out. They had nothing. They
Right.
were depleted. They had no cortisol. They had no response.
Yeah, that does sound like adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So I mean, like you see this, right? And I mean, there are more. I literally have like a page and a half just of the basic, some basic stats, and I know we'll maybe throw them out throughout the
Oh,
recording or the, but I want to associate this with the breath work. So I'm going to tell a story first that I thought was interesting. So as a flight nurse years ago, um, I had to do a urgent mission. So urgent mission means like they're jimmying it up, you're getting out the door. And it was during Bosnia. And so I flew during Bosnia and we had an urgent mission. We need to go pick them up for a service member that had sleep deprived mania. That's what the diagnosis was. He was sleep deprived mania. And I'm like, wow. So I
sorry,
went
mania or mania? Like
mania, like high,
mania.
like
Okay,
sleep
got it.
deprived. Yeah, he was sleep deprived mania. So he was high. He couldn't get down, right? He could not come down. He couldn't sleep. So he had not slept for 3 days. I think it was like 3 straight days he hadn't had any sleep. So I get him. It was me and tech because when I urgent, you just go short. You have two crews, crew members. So it was me and a tech, and my tech was a really big guy, and that'll be important to the funny part of the story. So we bring him on the plane and we floor load him beside me, and I'm on the jump seats. You know, we're sitting sideways, and he's down beside me. And they said he had not slept. He's talking gibberish. He's literally not home, right? And so I'm like, okay, he's in a stretcher. And as I'm looking at him, he says to me as we're getting ready to go, he's like, come here. Well, actually, we're up in flight, and he's like, come here. And he keeps motioning to me to lean over and talk to him. Now, you're dealing with somebody that's not mentally there or
Yeah,
stable.
don't get in this
It
space.
shouldn't get in this space, right? And I know this, and I'm weighing the odds. I remember looking over my shoulder, and I looked at my tech. He does not know what's going on in my head. And I'm like, well, if the guy tries to like choke me out or something, this guy's huge. He'll take, and the guy on the cot was small. So I was like, Jerry will get him like that. So I
Mm.
leaned forward, right, to listen to him. Yeah. He was like so mad at me, ma'am. So I leaned forward. I don't know. My intuition just kicked in and said, just do it. And I did. And he said, you remind me of my sister. That's what he said to me. And then he put his hand on my face and he fell asleep.
Oh, stop it.
Isn't that crazy?
Stop it.
So yeah, he fell asleep. So whatever I brought forward, I mean, I guess I looked like his sister, and that provided safety and comfort enough that his brain just said, okay, you can sleep here. But he was complete gibberish up to that point. That was probably the
No,
only coherent thing I had heard him say.
my gosh, that isn't just a wonderful, heart-moving story. It also points to the fact that if we don't feel safe, we don't sleep. If we don't, we're social mammals. If we don't feel connected to people around us, we don't feel safe. And the isolation, loneliness makes us never drop our guard, because if we drop our guard for a second, something bad's going to happen.
You
And
led right into what I was hoping you'd talk about because
this guy was
yeah.
obviously experiencing some extreme blockage between himself and other humans, feeling all alone, and he found a way out of there by, whether you look like your sister or not, he found something in you that allowed him to reach out to another human being, and it did more for him than any goddamn drug,
Yeah,
you
that
know.
craziest thing I'd ever seen. I was like, hey,
Mm.
let's
Oh,
go. But
I'm kind of, I wish you told me that when I first met you. That is such a good story.
well, it just lends into kind of what we're talking about. So it just popped in my head, and
It's such a
it
clear indicator to such a powerful universal truth that none of the pharmaceuticals ever tap into.
it's
It's
humanity,
not on the
right?
spreadsheet, but
No,
it's the most powerful thing about us humans. My gosh. Carry on. I'm just a little blown away. That's so cool.
oh well, I can assure you, my tech, on the other hand, nicely chewed me out, and I said, but I had complete confidence in you that you had my back. He was not happy with me.
Oh, no, no, but that's such a, I'll just back up what you just said. So, um, this is where the mainstream medical system has a way of basically protecting your ass. And, you do need
Yeah.
that. But a real clear example of this was I was in what you would call, the motor vehicle registry,
Yeah.
where there's a big long queue. And I'm
Yeah.
just waiting there to renew my license. And then someone yells out, is there a doctor in the house?
Oh,
And
yes.
I used to be a combat first aider, so I've got
Yeah.
about the same training as an ambulance person, but without any of the qualifications. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm here, I'll help. And there was
Yeah.
this lady buckled over, and there was another doctor there as well, and the doctor was stabilizing her according to what was her protocol. Um, you know, Standing a meter away, calling an ambulance, telling her that someone will be there. And this old lady, I asked her what her pain scales were, and she said 9 out of 10. And so I sat down with her, supported her, and held her hands while her feet were slightly elevated. And I'm saying, just look at me and breathe with me. And her pain scales, when it was with the regular doctor, like she was stable, but her pain scales weren't getting any better. And after a few short minutes, I said, "How's your pain scales?" And she said, "Oh my gosh, I'm under 5 now. I'm going
Isn't
towards
that
3."
crazy?
And it was all just on the back of what you'd do for your own mum. If they were hurting, you would give them some sort of social connection,
Mhm.
um, and ultimately, I think in the lack of that, the real nourishment of our deepest part of our soul, we tend to sort of outsource that to other things, thinking that pharmaceuticals do the same job. Um, and of course, there's a time and a place. I'm not actually anti-pill. Sometimes it's the lesser of two evils, but
Yeah.
no
Neither
one.
am
I
I.
I
Yeah.
I, I always say they're very quick to give it to you, but they don't tell you how much it costs you, and they don't tell you how hard it is to get off these things.
Well,
Um,
do you think also, I think that I'm with you. I'm not against medication. I do think there's a place for it, but I what I don't think we do is put them on with the intention of getting them off. Like as soon as you put them on, then that's the
yeah,
acute
good point.
get them through that. And what are we doing to now get them back off it? Right. So we're going to do this. Now we're going to start managing it down. So not for making sure we don't get too far off track, but it goes back to like the sleep, because lack of sleep will increase your pain. If you don't get good sleep, you have an increased perceived pain level. Um, and what's sleep doing? I mean, you know this, Tim. Like you can talk all about why is sleep so critical? What is it doing at night?
We'll be back in a moment after a word from V2M Veteran Magazine. And when we return, Tim answers Donna's question about why sleep is so critical, especially at night.
Looking for stories that truly matter to our military community? Discover V2M, the Veteran Magazine. Read online at v2mag.com.
The simplest way I can state it is this. Imagine if you couldn't go to the toilet. Okay. All right. Because we
Oh,
eat
that's a
to
good
create
one.
energy, but we also expel waste. Everybody knows that. You eat and you poop,
Right.
right? Well,
Yeah.
your brain poops as well. Okay. And if we're not sleeping properly, our spinal fluid isn't coming up, circulating through our skull, going across the blood-brain barrier and pulling out all the waste. All because your brain creates energy, but it also creates, let's call it poop, waste.
Yeah.
And if you wake up feeling crappy, it's probably because you haven't been able to poop. And if
Brain
that crappy
crap.
feeling follows you around for the day, and to me, I think it's almost fatigue is almost economized in the way that we buy more stuff we don't need when we're tired. Shut up until I've had a coffee. Shut up until I've had an energy drink. Shut up until I've had an alcohol. Maybe 10. And that
Yeah.
was that was how I lived for many years. I'm not judging anyone, but I'm just saying, um, I do believe that when you see it as a weapon of war in the special forces, we always used to try and attack the enemy's sleep because we didn't know about the science of it, but we just knew if we could take it out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet. All right. And so now that I'm where I am, I say, if you care about somebody, you care about how they sleep. And that kind of makes sense, right? But here's the question I ask everybody, and they're always kind of a bit lost when I ask this. Think about all the people you truly care about. When's the last time you did something that specifically helped them get an amazing night's sleep? And it's practically never on the table.
Never. Well, I
Never.
mean, for 1,000 reasons. Well, I mean, I'm not hanging out at my friend's house saying, okay, I'm going to put you to bed. I mean, we're not really doing that. And any of us in the military be like, dude, that's creepy shit. Don't be coming over and put me to bed. So, but you're right. Like caring for people is like, hey, how's your sleep? You know, like we don't say that to people. We like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are things going for you? None of us say, are you getting good sleep? Well, some of us are, like medical people do stuff like that. You do stuff like that. Anybody in that world would
Oh,
probably ask
insurance
that
people are
question.
very onto this because they know the data that you've spoken about. You
Ooh,
know,
see, that's a good one to point out. Like that's another aspect that's kind of outside our world. We're like, oh, that's for money to save money, but it's true, right? Like it
yeah,
is our health and our well-being. And the funniest part is that as a first responder or a veteran in our fields, we were some level trained on sleep deprivation, whether formally trained like special forces, or I'm sure in the first responder world, there were, SWAT teams and whatever, but I'm sure there are also certain levels that were trained in sleep deprivation.
yeah,
Um,
and I do think they're just like, pills. There's a time and a place to muscle up and get the job done. We were built for it,
yeah.
whether it's, a young mum or someone in the special forces. It is amazing how you can get by with a little amount for a period. But the thing is, it ends if you don't, you can do it for about a season, you know. If you think
Mhm.
about the seasons of the year, you can sort of push yourself like that for a season. If you don't have a season of recovery after that, we spoke about it earlier, this fatigue becomes wired in, like it's a normal thing. And it seems very normal because so many people are doing it.
And if you're functioning, then you're fine, right? Like, I mean, what's the saying? We're like, did you die? You're not dead. You're walking. You're fine. Like that. We're that simple. I was just sitting here thinking about this too. So I'm gonna add more to the mix on this. So we've got a veteran or a first responder that sleep deprivation is just part of the job description, right? Period, right? For whether it's because of the subculture that needs to be awake for a really long period of time, crazy schedules, long shifts, whatever that is, right? So you got
I
that.
just think they're being mismanaged. I'm a little jaded now. I think they selected the toughest people so they could mismanage them and they wouldn't complain. That's kind of my leaning now. Because if they managed these humans really well, they would have done even better. But no, let's just, they can carry 100 kilos on their shoulders. Let's put 200 kilos on their shoulders.
Yeah, but who's the yes, who makes some of the best people in the military and service members? The ones that have already primed for this, the ones that have already had trauma in childhood, right? They're primed because they're gonna get in there, they're gonna show you, and you provide a safe structure, right? So you have the structure, you have the pay, you have the safety of all that. Yeah, they're gonna go do it. And then of course we're adrenaline junkies. Hell yeah, we're all gonna go do it, right? So yeah, we're a recipe for disaster already to begin with. But then we go out there and do all this adrenaline filled excitement stuff. And when we go out there, we now have to also say, hey, we got to give you some extra skills so you don't get killed. And so now we have to put in hypervigilance, we have to put in strategy, we have to put in all those little more anxious. I saw a little video and it was a CIA agent saying the people that they love to have bring on when they're profiling them are people that are a little bit anxious to start with. Not enough that they can't function, but that they are more hypervigilant, they are more, strategic, whatever.
They got a
So
higher idle.
yeah, exactly. That's a perfect summary. We're idling higher, right? So you add all those skills onto them, and then you send them off and to go do all these, you know, defending our country and going in the war zone and helping, friendly nations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we come home and then we're all like, okay, well, you don't need those skills. So you just come on home, do your laundry, do the dishes, take care of the kids, and they can't shut it off. So now you got somebody that's like hyper vigilant. They needed that skill set. That's not serving them back home. They're not sleeping much, which also probably served them because they were not sleeping but still able to function. That's not serving them back home. And when you're out and about, either on your job during duty, whether that's first responder or you're away, you're in that moment. And now you're going to come home and you have to deal with the mundane, the bills, the kids arguing, somebody needs something from you.
You've got to be Clark Kent for the rest of your life. You flew like Superman, and now you've got to be Clark Kent.
Yeah. And now you're depleted from that day. And you want to say, your body is saying, go recharge somewhere. But that's not what gets to happen. Clark Kent has to go over there and keep functioning. So I'm setting up this compiled scene here to now and in this lack of sleep that we're in. And so we've seen things that other people shouldn't see. We've dealt with things that other people, haven't had to deal with. We're absorbing all that. So, and now we're not sleeping. We have wire fatigue. So talk to me now about what the body's doing and how the breath comes in and does all and helps, the
Sure.
importance of that.
Okay, so my life was changed when I discovered this fact, and I've shared this with thousands of other military members, and you spoke about it earlier. Cortisol is awesome. It gets you out of bed when you feel like you don't want to, and it can power you on. Time and a place for that. This country was made great by it. But too much for too long, and your hormone levels get impacted. And imbalanced hormone levels, or another word for it is adrenal fatigue, is a real thing with veterans and first responders, because they were the type that could push hard. They pushed hard, and when things got hard, they pushed harder again. And we tend to have this thing in veterans and first responders that if I ask for help, that means I'm weak, and if I'm weak, I'll let the team down. So just harden up. Take a teaspoon of concrete and harden up. And you can cash in your tomorrows to live today, but eventually those tomorrows will catch up to you. And that was me in 2011. And I saw a friend of mine, and it was such a complete accident. I mean, you could call it a divine accident, because what happened as a result was thousands of military people having their lives turned around from this. But I saw a friend of mine. I'm like, you're looking super vital. What's going on? And he was a civilian, but he was like this corporate dude. And he says, I'm taking a hormone supplement called DHEA, which used to be over the counter in Australia. Now it's prescription. And it's one of those hormones where it's got a lot in it, but your body takes only what it wants and it gets rid of what it doesn't, as I understand it. I'm not a endocrinologist. They're the experts in this area. So I'm like, oh, let me try that. Okay, I'll try what you're trying. So I tried this DHEA. I didn't tell my then wife. I don't call her my ex-wife, my then wife, because I genuinely stand for a positive future for the mother of my children. And I didn't tell her. And 2 weeks later, she goes, Tim, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I've got, and it's funny to say it out loud, but she called me I feel like I've got my soft Timmy back,
Oh,
you know? And
yeah.
I'm like, she said, what's changed? And I'm thinking, well, the only thing I've changed is taking this DHEA. But, you know, my sort of bullheadedness kicks in, and I'm like, if something changed in my life, I would have known it. So I went on and off of this DHEA. And like magic, my then wife would know when I was on it and when I was off of it. And that scared the hell out of me, Donna, because as a
Mm.
man, I'm supposed to be in charge of everything underneath my skin. And I'm like, what's going on here? Is there something so powerful in my life that when it's got me, I don't even know when it's got me? And that scared the hell out of me. Is there something going on underneath my own skin that's controlling me that I'm not in control of? And I don't even know when it's got me. But the people around me, I couldn't ignore the signs. And so what I do is I go see an endocrinologist who understands the alchemy of these things. And
Were
he'd been
you
in the game.
were you
Yep.
also having problems sleeping too at the time? Were you
Oh no,
not?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, okay.
Absolutely. You know, I did discover breath work in Afghanistan to turn me around from the edge of fatigue, but I didn't know that essentially my lungs was a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You know, when you breathe a certain way, you can elicit a certain response. I didn't know about the medicinal dose rate of all the different experiences your lungs could give you. So I went to this endocrinologist, and he'd been in the game a long time. And he says, Tim, I've been seeing this since Vietnam. And he said, look, you're probably always tired but can't sleep. I'm like, yep. He says, you probably got extreme cravings for sugar and alcohol. I'm like, yep. He says, you're probably using anger to compensate for your low energy. I'm like, damn, you are right. He says, yeah, look, getting angry is a very common thing, but it's like writing a check for $1,000 when you've only got $10 in the account. It puts you further under. Um, and it wasn't a coincidence, but it seemed coincidental at the time. But before I had my adrenal fatigued, before I had my hormones balanced, before I had my testosterone levels restored, I was, trying to go to counselors, psychologists, all these things, but it most of them honestly were just crap. But even if they were good, my fatigue and my isolation, because it's a bit of a nasty loop when you're feeling disconnected, not sleeping, you don't know who to trust. Your veterans and first responders can be quite cantankerous to deal with because they're always trying to test if they can trust you, which comes off as they're trying to push you away and get cranky at you. And I've had, you know, you probably
That's a
experienced it
special
too.
forces thing. I was just telling somebody the other day, I'm like, they come across like dicks, but you're trying to establish trust. And I don't know why I understood that early on, but I did. But yes, you guys are all dicks. That's how you come across. And then, but it's a trust because what are you doing in your inner circle? You have to lean on your partner for your life and vice versa. I mean, that's survival.
We will be right back after this short break. When you serve your community, you deserve a team that has your back. At Coming Home Well and the Transitioning Warrior Outreach, we proudly partner with Big Frog Custom T-shirts and more of New Braunfels, Texas. As a veteran-owned local business, Big Frog delivers top-quality company-branded apparel, custom shirts, team apparel, or personalized gear with unmatched service. Support the business that truly supports our heroes. Visit bigfrognb.com today. Thanks for sticking with us. Now back to the episode.
No, but what a beautiful example of what you just spoke about. When that guy was fatigued for 3 days, you could have pumped anything through his veins, but you, as another human, you broke that isolation. He found someone he could trust, and then that gave him the peace he was looking for,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's funny. It's a very strange way to go about looking for peace by getting angry and being a dick. But that's essentially what's going on underneath it. So for you to see
Yes.
that, Donna, that's no small thing. But dialing just back into the adrenal fatigue story, once this guy balanced out my hormone levels, and you have to understand, and this could be, it could be a thing in the States, but currently in Australia, the way it was explained to me is testosterone, because of there's been perceived abuses in the past,
Hmm.
they've created a one size fits all. So whether you're 17 or 70, it's just enough testosterone for you not to die. Okay. Just like the minimum amount of vitamin C is just enough for you not to get scurvy, there's
Hmm.
just enough testosterone in there for you not to die. So if you're a high performing person and you go to your GP, the GP is running off this, uh, standard that
Yeah.
is doesn't serve the person that wants a lifestyle that actually brings out who they truly are. My stand for everyone I deal with is I want them to flourish and bring out who they truly are. And to to get to who you truly are, you can't be in a state of fatigue. You can't be in a state of isolation because you end
Right.
up spending your whole life dealing with those two blockages. They're massive blockages.
You're trying to
And
regulate. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're just trying to chase your own tail, let alone deal with the external world. And I just did a really good job of pouring alcohol over it. That's how I dealt with it, So again, there's no judgment from me. I'm just trying to share my path so people take less time to figure this stuff out. So what this guy did, he balanced out my testosterone levels with, and he obviously monitored my blood. This wasn't just taking steroids down the back of the gym. This was in a regulated way. And
Right.
but what he did, he says, I want to give you the lifestyle that you want, Tim. So we're going to have to find the right levels where you're doing life the way you want, but there's no imbalances being created elsewhere. Okay, so it was within a structured, system. And oh my gosh, my wife, my then wife, became this wonderful person. It's like, because beforehand, when I wasn't, when I wouldn't take, when I was going on and off the pills, it's like she became this loving person, and then she became a cactus. My kids were doing well at school, and my kids weren't doing well at school. It was just this really weird
But it
thing where
was
you
you
realize
though. It was your, but it
exactly,
was
but it's such a hard pill to swallow for a lot of
right.
guys because especially if there's a certain guilt around, I seem to be causing pain to people I love. I'm the one that stands guard to keep the threat away, to keep the pain away. How can I be the one causing pain to people I love? And
Right.
that's a hard pill to swallow. Especially veterans, first responders. You can imagine how we're the protectors, and
We can't do it at home, right? Like we're like, what the hell? So when your testosterone came up and you got some of that regulated, did you start seeing your sleep improve a little bit?
yes, if you're waking up at 2 a.m. regularly, it's usually some form of adrenal fatigue.
Yeah,
Because
going on
yeah,
in
because
there.
the body cleans sorry, just to explain that thing, waking up regularly. At nighttime, the body cleans different parts of you at different times. And if the cleaning crew hits up against, a really dirty room they can't get into, often that wakes you up. And so this is why, as a breathwork coach, even if you get to sleep well, it's always a really good idea to oxygenate yourself before sleep. So that gives the cleaning crew an oxygen boost to then go through their systems with velocity. And anti-inflammation is a massive um, benefit of breath work, especially before going to sleep. I, again, got off all my pain meds just with breath work because I was just noticing every time I breathe, I woke up with less pain. I needed less pills. It was just yeah. And that's why I'm
Well,
really excited to have these conversations with you, Donna,
yeah,
because no one's talking about this. They might talk about the problem, but no one's talking about, well, here's something you can try tonight.
but you just brought up a really valid point that I just want to go back to is that there's quality and quantity, right? So if you're like, oh, I'm sleeping for 6, 7 hours, but it's not deep enough, you're also not able to, your body's not able to regenerate the way it needs to, right?
Yeah.
So you need the brain to, the brain crap needs to get cleaned out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's eating, what is it called? Is it the macrophages? I'm trying to bring it back, but they're eating up all these cells that are not doing us any service, for in the simplest terms. Obviously it's a little more complex than that, but it's cleaning the crap out of our system. And like you said, we eat and then we have to go to the bathroom, but the body itself is actually making other waste and causing inflammation, and that's causing issues. And there's choices, right? We can either just take pills on top of pills and, oh, there's a side effect. Here's a pill for it. And the next thing you know, you're on like 15 pills. And so too, go right back to our military first responder community. What do we hear all the time? I hear it, I swear to God, every day, where the veterans will say, oh yeah, the VA they'll hand us loads and loads of pills. Like,
Yeah.
you can have it mailed to your house. They'll mail you pills, but I can't get in and talk to anybody when I want to, but I sure the hell can have a 3-month supply of whatever pills, right? So when
And
we're
these people
doing
are
this,
so vulnerable, they're
yeah,
so vulnerable. They think that, I've done the right thing. I thought the right thing would happen to me. And these guys seem to know what's in charge, and okay, I'll take those pills. And the thing is, you can lose years of your life before,
and they have,
and
yes, they do. I mean, I've literally had people say to me, they're just like, Donna, there's 24 meds in front of me. And I'm like, and I had one person that admitted himself, he's actually a good friend of mine. He admitted himself to inpatient. He said, I have a whole period of time. He's like, I don't even know how long it is that I don't remember. And he's like, I was on so many meds. And he's like, that I was going cuckoo. He admitted himself to inpatient, and he's like, I had to get off these medications. He goes, it got to this point. Nobody is stopping once a year to say, hey, let's go through all your meds. Let's bring this to the pharmacist. Let's see what's doing what, and what do you really
yeah,
need, and what can we wean you down on? Like, that's not happening. It's like, ramp it
yeah,
up. All right. So getting back to bringing this back to sleep, we're talking about, we already have the whole kind of picture, right? The breath work part is an extremely important part, because what we were just talking about is, the medication, the polypharmacy is the term that, we use, and we're giving meds for other medication and the symptoms of or side effects of
yeah.
other medications, right?
No
So
one's
it's just,
talking about the options we have underneath our own skin.
yeah, there's no conversation there, right? So, enter breathworks, right? And so we want to tell you that there's lots of modalities, and this is one of them, and it's a very simple one. And you know what the
Mm,
nice thing is? You carry it with you all the time. You got lungs with you, and you can breathe. And so that's what Tim is going to talk about, or that's what we are talking about, is using your breath to help as a modality to help with sleep, pain, and all these different topics that we're going to be hitting in our series. So this one happens to be specific to sleep. And what I want to do is, Tim, let you have some thoughts on this, some final thoughts on breath work and sleep, and then we'll wrap it up with a breath work session, like
technique,
a
yeah.
small,
No,
yeah, a
that would
small
be
technique to
very
use.
important, because
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the person that just spoke about something. I wanted to be the person that gave options, to have
Yes.
permanency, because everyone's saying, oh, you need to sleep, you need to do this. I'm like, well, what can I do right now?
To
So
get
by
there.
the end of this, you'll be given some permanent access to some options moving forward. So the reason why breath work is so powerful is because if you think of us as humans evolving, before we were sentient and putting paintings on rock walls, before we were even speaking, we were breathing. And that deep ancient wiring is inside of us, and it actually outranks the thinking mind. So before I was a special forces soldier, I was a professional fighter. And I was known as a young yellow belt to be able to beat the black belts. And I knew I couldn't beat them on skill, but I understood how the body worked, and I would weaponize breath. I knew if I could take their breath away, that ancient wiring, if I could attach that, that would turn their brain off. So I never beat a black belt. I beat a white belt, because I knew how to take their lungs out and take their breathing away and turn their brain off. So now I show people how to access this ancient wiring to essentially do what all these polypharmacies try to do, and that's turn your brain off. And I have to caveat this, the first 2 minutes of breath work always feels like it's a bit of a chore, and your own brain fights it because it's like, no, I want to stay in charge. Okay. But at about the 2 minute mark, the energy that you get from your breath becomes easy. Like it's almost like your breath is breathing you. And your brain's like, oh, thank goodness you kicked out the disempowered parts of me. Now I'm happy to be here, you know? So I like breath work because it's a rather easy win. And you, in this environment where the society we live in gives you a quick win. Oh, I can't sleep. Here's a pill. Here's a pill. Like easy wins, right? So breath work gives you easy, quick access to something that done right makes you feel good pretty quick. But the key to this, and you mentioned this earlier, repetition restores. It can be a one and done, like, oh, I got a good night's sleep, but then often people go, oh, I got a good night's sleep, now I can wreck myself for a week, and and then I'll get back to what I know I should be doing. So the key to this is knowing that repetition restores, doing this thing as you're going to sleep and doing this thing as you're waking up. If I could speak to it plainly, our state of being is greatly impacted by two windows every day, 2 5-minute windows, the 5 minutes as you're going to sleep and the 5 minutes as you're waking up. And if you can use breath work in those two golden moments, all of a sudden your state of being, you've got a whole lot more say over. Okay. And what does that look like in real life? Veterans often talk about when they wake up, they've got these vultures on the bedhead, these negative thoughts ready to dive into their head. And I'm blessed to have those vultures there every morning, because if I don't access my breath, if I don't access my morning routine, those vultures, I lose the first 5 minutes of the day, and then I end up losing the day. But there's some very easy things for to be able to access the medicine that we can give ourselves. And again, you're going to discover that we don't own a set of lungs. We own a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. And I love breath work because whoever I'm talking to, we're all breathing. And if I can just connect them to a super powerful part of themselves, then they're going to have that for the rest of their lives. And I would love to give all those that are listening two things. And first is the understanding that the answer is as plain as the nose on your face. Like, we've all got noses. And if you look at your own nose, it kind of looks funny. But Chinese have called the nose Heaven's Gate. And modern science has caught on to the fact that when you breathe through a specific nostril, you activate a specific energy system. So we know what fight or flight is. We know what get up and go is. We know what cortisol is. But what we don't know is that energetic system is accessed when we breathe through our right nostril. Right nostril is get up and go, time to rock and roll. Left nostril is parasympathetic. Get ready to sleep. All is well. I am safe. And so what I'd love to do, and this is just an easy win, if you want to go to sleep right, hold up your right thumb. And with that right thumb, push it onto your right nostril. Okay? And then breathe through your left nostril. Just take a few breaths in, and try and get to that top 3% of your lungs, and then let it out, and get to the bottom 3%. So when we're breathing, just focus on those 3% at the top and 3% at the bottom. And Donna, if you're having trouble, because I'm being a fighter, see how no one at home can see this, but I'm lifting my nose up, and Donna can see how I got a deviated septum.
Very significant.
So if you've got,
yeah.
Well, no one tells you that the sinuses is a muscle group, and you can strengthen it. So people say, I can't breathe through my nose. And that's like someone saying, well, I've got weak arms, I can't lift a 1 pound weight. You simply need to strengthen that muscle group, and you'll be surprised how much you can actually lift. So what I'm going to suggest people do is, as they push their right thumb down with their right pointer fingers, put it on your cheek and push that cheek away and up, almost like you're trying to push your cheek to your temple.
Now breathe in on through that nostril that's clear. Pushing down with your right thumb and pushing your cheek up to your temple. Do you notice that, Donna? Take a deep breath in.
Very clear.
Yeah, so you can actually
Open it
create that
up.
space and access it. So going to sleep right is as simple as putting your right thumb on your right nostril, breathing into the top 3%, blowing out to the top 3%.
And it's all through your nose, right? You don't blow out through your
No,
mouth. You
all
blow
through
out.
your nose. Yeah.
So blow your nose first.
Well, this will clear it out for sure. Have a box of tissues handy. And then when you're getting up in the morning,
Do the
you want to get out
opposite.
of the right side of the bed. So left thumb, left nostril, breathing through your right, left thumb, left nostril, breathing through your right nostril.
Right. No. So you're pushing your right cheek.
Yeah,
The
pushing
back.
your right cheek, breathing through your left nostril. Aim for the top 3%.
That is
Blowing it
different.
out.
I can feel the difference when I let go.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's almost like it aerates your brain.
No, that's exactly right. So as a fighter, my coach would say, Tim, before you do a combination, do a big snort through your nose really hard over your sinuses, because according to him, that oxygenated your brain straight away. It skipped your lungs. So this is one way to access and manually override. And this is what a lot of people don't get. Breathwork isn't meditation. Meditation's awesome, but meditation is thoughts controlling thoughts. And if you've got a train wreck going on up there, you need a mechanical override. You need a mechanical brake.
That's a
And
good point.
breath work is like going to the side of your house and pulling out the fuse box. The lights go out. Okay. And this is where that first 2 minutes is so critical. And this is why I've noticed that breath work, as powerful as it is, it does need to be guided. We need an external focus point to give us that cadence to breathe, to focus on, so we can get to that medicinal level of breath work.
So when they do this, so we'll just say, since we're talking about sleep, we're going to use I'm going to use our right thumb over our right nostril, and you're breathing through your left nostril. And so how many, we're all about direction. We follow directions well.
Yep.
How many times, like if somebody's getting started, they're going to go to bed tonight and go, okay, I'm doing this. You're going to go in, lay down. You're going to put your right thumb over your right nostril. You're going to take your left fingers. You're going to push your cheek back, and you're going to breathe in and out. How many times should they be doing that? Over what period? Like, what's the best way to start?
Great question. I'm glad you re-clarified that, because this is a new habit. So what I'll do is I won't count in my head, because I'm breathing air into my brain and I lose track very easily, right? Which isn't a bad thing if you're actually going to sleep. But what I found, if I want the medicinal dose, as my right thumb is pushing down my right nostril and I'm breathing, my free hand will be pushing a finger at a time into my chest to count them. Okay, so I'm counting as I'm pushing fingers into my chest. So that gives me a tactile awareness of, I'm on number one. And most people can count on their hands.
Yeah.
So I go from, 1, 2, and I get, I go back and forth. And you'll notice somewhere between breath 15 and breath 20, all this wonderful energy will start coming through your system. And you're like, oh, I can keep doing this. So breath is a bit like, those cars that you put, that the old fashioned cars that you have to put the crank handle in the front and crank it around a few times.
Yeah.
So think of your breath as the crank handle. And once you've cranked, 10 to 15 breaths, the motor kicks in. I'm like, oh, wow, I can do this forever. Okay. So stay. And this is why I'm a big fan of the guidance for breath work. And if anyone's, interested in taking this on seriously, I actually have the Breathwork in Bed app that once you just tell it when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up, you just tap the notification, because, when you're fatigued, you don't want to have to remember extra stuff. But if you can tap a notification and it goes, hey, breathe in, breathe out to a certain cadence, that gives people access to that wonderful world of breathwork. So I'm just going to mention that now, because, I'm happy to offer everyone here 28 days free if they want to try that. It won't cost you anything, and you will literally turn your bed into a cloud tonight. with the right guided breath work. And what I'm really committed to, it's not just the sleep. The sleep is the soil from which everything grows. What I'm committed to is having people flourish, having them serve in this world as the divinely connected person they are. And it's pretty hard to connect to others when you're blocked up, not sleeping. So sleep and breath is a tool to allow people to flourish and bring who they truly are into this world. That's what makes me excited about this. Because I can't do what you do, but if I can help improve your sleep, then you're going to bring your gifts into the world, even better. So I ask people, what would your 2026 be like if your sleep was 50% better?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I read about this and they were talking about this, that speaking, and this is where I was thinking of you and the guided breathing. When you hear somebody talk, like guided anything, right?
Yeah.
It shuts your brain off from it's like distracts your brain, right? So now
Yeah.
you're over there listening to those words. And then the other part of your brain's like, okay, good, let's go to sleep. Like it allows it to go do what it needs to. So if you're doing that in a breath work app where you're also oxygenating yourself, distracting yourself to let the rest of your brain to just shut down, I mean, it's like the best of all worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Trust me when I say this is your best friend at 2 a.m. when you wake up.
Yeah.
And instead of ruminating on all the crap in your head, hitting that button and using your breath to create that peace, power, reconnection to all the best parts of us. And I might say this for you, Donna. Before I got divorced, I used to have to drink half a carton of grog before I spoke to my then wife. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a non-chemical way to connect? So within the Breathwork in Bed app, I have couples breathwork.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it's an amazing experience to connect to yourself with your breath. But if you're laying there, and it's as simple as holding hands, and you just guide it. One person takes it in turns, guiding the person's breath, and the other person does. And to go into your unconscious when you're breathing in sync, it is a divine experience.
My husband in the morning, so, we all get in our routines, right? And he gets up and go downstairs and he is meditating. And so it kind of calms his nervous system, resets him for the
Oh,
morning, that kind of
it's
stuff.
a
So
credit
yeah,
to him that he does it. That's no small thing. I could only encourage you because there's remember how I said the chest is a medicine cabinet. There's a
yeah,
type of medicine your breath can give you to turn your bed into a cloud, but then there's a type of medicine your breath can give you to turn your bed into a trampoline. And you win that first 5 minutes of the day, or as I call it a phoenix moment, because I've got those negative vultures that swoop into my head, those negative thoughts.
yeah.
But what I've understood now is I'm so grateful to those negative thoughts because that's the raw material we have to transform that, to create that phoenix moment where it turns into a peaceful, powerful eagle that is going to be with you for the rest of the day.
You know what? That's like a great thing to kind of end on. Like I like that because that is a lot of us, right, are dealing with that negative talk in our head, that constant negative talk. And it is up to us to make that decision on what we're doing. And so here we are back at Breathworks to say, here is something that's portable, that you can do anywhere, that can help you clean out the negative thoughts, the stress weeds. It can get you into a better place to sleep, which is going to, and hopefully a deeper sleep, which is going to let you clean out all that brain crap and the inflammation in the body through really good sleep and rest. And when you get up in the morning, there's a breath work you can also do to help reinvigorate you, oxygenate everything to get you ready for the day. So you're better for not only yourself, which is primary and important, but that's going to make you better for everybody else. I mean, really? And by the way, it doesn't cost anything, and you don't have to go to TRICARE or VA or anybody to get
You don't even have
insurance
to
to
get out of your
cover
bed.
it. Right. I
Oh,
mean, it's a
you
win.
get to discover just how amazing we were built and what we can do for ourselves. Because I noticed when I wasn't doing my breath for myself, because no one does this for you. The world we live in tends to almost want us to be fatigued because then it makes more money from us. you know, and I can be
Yes.
easily swayed in a particular direction when I'm not thinking properly because I'm
You bet
I'm
your butt.
reactive. I'm not proactive.
Mm.
So, you know, if you can, like, I'm excited right now because there's people that are listening right now that are going to go, oh, whatever, right? But then there's people listening right now say, you know what, this is everything. If I can find out just how amazing my lungs and what they can do for me in that first 5 minutes of the day and that last 5 minutes of the day, then I'm going to discover who the fuck I am, you know?
Yeah, and you're
And
going to get curious when it starts.
and that's why I'm like, if you can do nothing, if you can just control the 5 minutes going to sleep and the 5 minutes waking up, you know, I suggest breath work because it's such an easily and accessible
Yeah,
thing.
it's perfect.
Then, you know, you will have that energy to naturally connect to others. And I didn't want to say it, but to me, an energetic natural flow is being generous to others.
It is. All right. I think that this was a really good one. And I'll give everybody a
I
little
agree.
insight on this. So the next one we're going to be talking about, our next podcast, is going to be chronic pain and the
Oh, such a good one.
body armor that never came off, which I love because actually I have a blog named Taking Off the Armor, which I think is so funny. So, and I think another very good topic. And again, how breath work is going to impact that, right? So that's what we're going to be
Yep.
talking about. So take the tips, use the breath work, and let us know. So until next time, folks, do some breath work. Hey, thanks for sitting with us today. Remember, you aren't alone, and you definitely don't have to carry this weight by yourself. To find more community resources, head over to cominghomewell.com. And to start using your breath as a tactical tool tonight, check out Tim's work at breathworkinbed.com.au. Don't forget the AU. Take a deep breath, and we'll see you next time.